I want the next president to bring in Jesse Waters from Fox News and put him right there and make him watch clips of himself dehumanizing Democrats, and then play clips where Jesse Waters talks about Democrats dehumanizing people and yell at him for clearly being a hypocrite. I want the next president. I can't even decide. It's either going to be Ryan Johnson or it's going to be J.J. Abrams. And he's going to bring them both in and he's going to fucking yell at them for Star Wars Episode 8 and 9. Because the next trilogy had so much promise after Episode 7. I was psyched, and I can't decide where it went wrong. Was it in Episode 8 where you made Luke Skywalker possibly kill somebody for what they might do in the future when we didn't know if they're going to do it? Can we not just have one good guy left in the universe?
On Trial with Josh Lowry.
Welcome to another episode of On Trial with Josh Lowry. We're going to put on trial one of the biggest corruption scandals in the history of the U.S. presidency. In any other administration, this would be the leading news topic every day for months on end. It would probably cause an impeachment and would probably just absolutely shake up the political landscape and the world as we knew it. And yet this is just like another day under the Trump administration. So there's no guest on today's episode because honestly, the guest is the corruption report. It's a big investigative report by the New York Times. I have a subscription. If you want free press, might not be a bad idea. They're about the only place left so far that has not bent the knee to Donald Trump. So what is this corruption scandal? We're going to get into the details, and I'm going to need you to follow along. Basically, we can summarize this with two massive transactions. One is invested with Trump's stablecoin, which could possibly give him like $1 billion profit, but is definitely making tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars directly into Trump. Two weeks after that, the country, United Arab Emirates, that invested that $2 billion, agrees to a new deal with the United States that allows the UAE access to AI chips that they would have not had access to. The Biden administration specifically said, no, you can't have these. It's a risk to national security. All right, two transactions. We're going to walk through it in detail, but I'm going to summarize it again before we get into it. I understand we've all got a lot of things going on. You might be scrolling your phone as you're listening to this. So if you are, I need you to focus. Stop. Listen. The UAE is a country that wanted AI chips from America. Biden administration said no. It's a national security risk. The UAE then invests $2 billion in one of Trump's crypto companies, which could make Trump $1 billion. All of a sudden, the United States and UAE announce a deal where the UAE is now all of a sudden going to get these AI chips that they couldn't get before. Coincidence? I don't think so. Actually, I don't think anyone thinks so. Like, I think this is the most blatant corruption you're ever going to hear. It's almost as shocking. You know what it is? Do you ever see the movie Dirty Work with Norm Macdonald? So in it, Norm Macdonald and was it Artie Lang? I don't know, his sidekick, right? They start a business in which they're doing things that, like to get back at people. Like they'll pull dirty pranks on people as a way to get some sort of like retribution. And one of the things they do is fill a backhoe or some piece of equipment. I can't remember. What was it? Anyway, they fill up some vehicle with popcorn seeds, start the vehicle, popcorn fills up, right? The next scene cuts to the police officers following a trail of popcorn seeds running back to Norm Macdonald's office. And the police officer says something along the lines of either we're about to be set up and we're walking into a trap, or these are the dumbest criminals in the history of the world. The police officer thinks Norm Macdonald is one of the dumbest criminals in the history of the world because no criminal would possibly leave the trail of evidence right back up to their office. The Trump administration, they literally did it in public. They announced it on national TV. I don't even think there's plausible deniability. Like, I don't even think there's any deniability. This is so blatantly obvious. So let's get into the details. I said that we're going to have to remember two major transactions and really two major players. The first major player is World Liberty Financial. That is Trump's crypto company. Pretty easy to follow. All right. So anytime you hear me say World Liberty Financial, remember I'm talking about Trump's crypto company. So he created it last year. I don't even think they knew what they were going to do with it yet, but it's a crypto company. And for those of you that don't know, I'm not big into crypto, but basically it's the idea that's like it's money, but it's not tied to a bank. It doesn't have to be anywhere. It exists in itself. There are pros and cons. People question, people like, whatever. The point is, it's crypto. So World Liberty Financial is created, this company, this crypto company, and it's the brainchild of Steve Witkoff. You need to remember that name, Steve Witkoff. He was a real estate magnate, so he creates this company, World Liberty Financial. What a bunch of surprising names that we would find as the co-founders. We have Donald J. Trump, Eric Trump, and Donald Trump Jr. on Barron Trump, and then Steve Witkoff and his son Zach. They come back important later. Now, a Trump business entity, like this is on its website. This is not us guessing or making this up. A Trump business entity owns 60% of World Liberty. And according to the website, the Trump family is entitled to 75% of the revenue from the coin sales. So it's a crypto company. One of the types of crypto is stable coin. That is what was bought by the UAE. I mean, we'll get to that in a minute, but understand when there is a stable coin sold, there's 75% of the revenue gets converted into cash and given to Trump's family. That's a pretty big chunk, right? All right. You want to know how much money that they were already making off this before this whole corrupt deal with the UAE? Earlier this year, it was revealed that World Liberty had raised $550 million, which meant that the Trump family was entitled to $400 million in fees. $400 million. That was before this whole UAE investment. Good Lord. So that's player one, World Liberty. Player two is the UAE. Now you're going to hear me talk about Sheikh Tanoon. He's the UAE security advisor, but really he's the guy that runs the UAE's wealth fund. They have sovereign wealth fund. So this is totally different from like what America does, right? But and some of these Middle Eastern countries, especially, the UAE is a perfect example. They take the money that is made off like the oil and they have a sovereign wealth fund. It allows them to invest, right? That's when you hear like Live Golf. You have Saudi Arabia. They're taking money from their sovereign wealth fund, investing it in sports in America. So UAE also has this wealth fund, and you have this Sheikh Tanoon who is in charge of investing it. So one of the things that the Sheikh had done was he had created a company called G42, but I'm not going to keep saying that because I'm giving you too many things to remember. So we're just going to call it the Sheik's company. All right. So the Sheikh, his company, he had this AI company, big technological business company. But here's the problem. As AI technology is developing, his company needed more powerful chips. So he, the Sheikh Tanoon, said, you know what, we're going to get those more powerful chips from America because that's who makes them. That's kind of what we do. So he goes and talks to the Biden administration, and the Biden administration is like, no, of course not. You guys want these when the UAE is doing joint military exercises with the Chinese military, but also that company that I was talking about, the Sheikh's company, they have a bunch of partnerships with Chinese tech companies. So the Biden administration is like, we're not giving you guys these chips. You're just going to share them with China. And like, we don't want to give those to China. Like all of us have heard this ongoing, I don't know if we call it war, but definitely like an arms race in technology between us and China. So at this point, Trump gets elected. UAE has been saying, we need these chips. We want to buy them. But the US has said, nope, national security risk ain't doing it. Now, of course, NVIDIA, the American company that sells the chips, was like, yeah, let's do it because, I mean, they're a corporation. They don't give a fuck about national security. They're just like, hey, we can make money. So Trump gets elected. In March 2025, he has Sheikh Tanoon to the White House. He comes, they have a dinner, but behind the scenes, the Sheikh is saying, hey, guys, I need more of these chips. I need these AI chips. I need to get stronger. But Trump's own national security team is like, no. Like we're America first. I'm not going to let you guys have these chips. Get out of here. Now, this event happens. The Sheik is asking for access to these chips. Well, a couple days after the Sheik is there, all of a sudden, surprise, World Liberty says, hey, we're launching a stable coin that sovereign investor, we're launching a stable coin that sovereign investors can invest in. That's surprising timing. So they didn't have a stable coin that sovereign nations could invest in. But a couple days after the Sheik comes and has dinner with Trump and says, hey, I need more chips, all of a sudden World Liberty launches the stable coin. Now, what's the big deal about the stable coin? So, all right, country uses it, they deposit the money, then they go use the stable coin to do whatever they want. Meanwhile, World Liberty has all of that money to invest, generate a ton of money. Shit, you deposit in the minimum investment type things, you get your 5, your 10%, whatever. If someone just gave you hundreds of millions or billions of dollars, that interest is a massive amount of money. Okay, so all right, maybe that's a coincidence. Maybe this is just innocent. World Liberty is just like, hey, maybe somebody wants to invest and we just want to give them a place to do it. They want to use a stable coin. It'll be all good. This has nothing to do with the meeting that just happened a couple of days ago, right? And there's maybe some reason to believe that because, like, they're not getting the chips they want. The UAE isn't. Okay, so World Liberty says, hey, here's a place where UAE could invest. And the UAE is saying, look, we really need those chips, America. But America is actually at this point like saying, nope, right? Trump's national security team. They've said, no, that's not America first. It's not okay. Well, then for some fucking reason, Laura Loomer comes into the story. April 2025, Laura Loomer, who's this right-wing influencer. I mean, she's like says horrific stuff. Like bad, right? So she meets with Trump, and then all of a sudden Trump fires a bunch of Security Council, including all the ones that wanted to block this UAE sale. I don't know why. Like literally. Side note, what is Trump's obsession with these like really kind of obscure influencers? Right? Like he's always so concerned about his base and the effect he worries about these people that have like, hundreds of thousands of followers or a million like I don't feel like he's ever realized that he was like, oh, I'm the one that they're following, not these random people on like I don't know. Anyways, Laura Loomer comes in, does that. All right, so now there have been people in the Trump administration kind of like working to see, hey, can we come to a deal, right? Can we come to a deal? But the concern, like I said, was the national security thing. So the negotiation about these chips with the UAE had kind of been like developing, but it still wasn't going very far. All of a sudden, in May, an email goes to the United States. New proposal. They want 5 times the amount of chips. They want stronger chips. And a bunch of them are going to go to that company I told you about, the Sheikh Tahnoon's company, who is sharing them with China. Well, like, okay, now we're at the point where like National Security Council and the Trump administration, everybody's got to go, no, 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 no. Look, I get Trump wants to get rich, but like we can't hand advanced security or advanced technology to China. Like that's definitely a problem, right? Of course, no one would possibly be okay with that. Wait, I forgot this is the Trump administration. May 2025. All right. So March, she comes to DC. He says, I want those chips. All of Trump's team's like, I don't know about this. May, World Liberty announces that the Sheikh Tahnoon's companies are going to make a $2 billion investment in another company, but they're going to use it. The $2 billion investment is going to come from World Liberty stablecoin. $2 billion. So essentially, you're like, well, how is that making money? There would literally be like a massive $2 billion transaction that's being, the loan is coming from Chase. And you wouldn't say Chase isn't making money off of that, would you? No, because they're going to take that money and invest it elsewhere and make a shit ton of money, right? Do you ever see that thing about like why the bank's building is so much bigger than the person taking the loan from the bank? $2 billion, direct quote from the New York Times. The transaction effectively handed World Liberty a $2 billion bank deposit, funds that the company could invest to generate returns in the tens of millions annually. That's a lot of money. It's apparently the largest investment in a crypto company ever. All right. But like, surely that's not going to have any effect on the decisions the Trump administration makes as running a country, right? He keeps his business and his country separate, right? Like his presidential powers are one thing, but then he's going to treat his companies as separate. No, fucking course not. Have you paid attention to a second of the Trump administration? 2 weeks later, Trump goes to a Middle Eastern tour. He goes to UAE and he announces a chips deal. Who's standing on the stage with him? Steve Witkoff, the guy that founded World Liberty, and Sheikh Tanun. They announce that this chips deal has been made, and now the UAE is going to get access to a shit ton of AI chips, and even stronger ones. And a lot of them are going to get to go to the Sheikh's company that's sharing this shit with China. Now, of course, when Trump announced the sale, or I guess the deal, he didn't mention anything about the $2 billion transaction with his company. What do we think this means? So some people have estimated that based off what Trump has personally made off of World Liberty's earlier transactions, Trump could make $1 billion off this one transaction. $1 billion. You know, Trump's net worth has increased by almost $5 billion since he took office. I feel like I've heard a lot of people say this is too difficult to understand, so it's not going to get anywhere with the voters or with the press or anywhere. I don't know about you guys, but this doesn't really sound that hard to understand. Another country wanted AI chips that they could only get from America. America had said, no, we're not selling them to you. It's a national security risk. That company invests $2 billion in Trump's company, which he's going to make a shit ton of money off of. And all of a sudden, the U.S. says, you know what? Now we'll let you get those chips. We'll even let you get better chips than you wanted, more chips than you were asking for. Anything else we can get you while we're at it? Like, this is blatant, obvious corruption, pure as day. Let's be fair about this. What is Trump's explanation? Well, he hadn't actually commented specifically about this, but when like anything has been brought up about him making money, he points out that conflict of interest laws don't apply to him and that he has broad immunity for the actions he takes as a president because the Supreme Court gave President Trump basically blank immunity. You probably all remember that. It was great. But here's their go-to, the other part, right? They keep saying, well, Trump's assets are managed by his kids. So you guys see all these photos. Donald's with him. Donald Trump Jr. is always with him. Eric Trump's always with him. Like, do we really think they're not talking about this? We really think this deal was not influenced by the massive amount of money that their company was going to make? He's still making money off of it. I mean, it's in the news. It's all over the place. How could he not know? Now, of course, the White House and Royal Liberty have said there's no connection. These are totally unrelated transactions. Totally unrelated transactions. That would be like, I mean, think of the most obvious analogy you could think of. Be like sticking your hand in water and saying my hand is not wet because it's in this water. Those are two unrelated things. This is so obviously connected that like I can't think of like a good funny way to explain it. Also, I suck at doing like funny analogies or metaphors. Like, man, I see some great ones from like Jon Stewart, Jimmy Kimmel when he used to be on the air before the First Amendment ceased to exist apparently, but I've never been good at them. The point is, this transaction is clearly related. This is clear corruption, and this should be something that ends Trump's presidency. Apparently, it's just going to be another footnote, but here is why we have to keep talking about it. I'm not saying this is good. I believe a lot of voters in America are fine with corruption from their politicians. There's been enough examples over the years that they assume that's just the way it is. I would point out it's probably a very small portion that's actually happened, but also they do see the way that somebody goes into government and then they come out and all of a sudden they're worth millions more. So why would the average voter think that corruption's not a part of it? Like, I kind of get it, right? But I think when it comes with Trump, a lot of voters are just like, hey, you know what? He's corrupt, but as long as it helps me, I'm okay with it. As long as my prices are going down, as long as my health care is getting cheaper, as long as the economy is doing well, hey, Trump can be as corrupt as he wants. Personally, not how I roll. If you're corrupt, you're corrupt. I don't enjoy it. just because I might benefit from it. But even in this situation, no one's benefiting from this. Like, also, who else? Like, Trump is directly benefiting from this. All right. Those chips were going to get sold. It's just changing who we sell them to. China's going to benefit from this. But tell me, is any of this making your healthcare prices cheaper? Is any of this making your grocery prices cheaper? No. Trump's corruption is for nothing other than his own benefit. And it's literally hurting our national interest, literally hurting national security. As much as I want to talk about this and rail and say, this is the corruption of all corruption, this could be the thing that ends everything. This could be the thing that makes us reform government. This could be the thing that makes all of us stand up and say, hey, no more corruption. I don't care if it's from my side or the other side. No more corruption. We're done. I don't think that's going to happen. I feel like we've gone through things before. It happens. So I really thought about this. Every time Trump does something wrong and we think that is a violation of the Constitution, that is a violation of the public trust, that is a violation of just common decency. Hopefully this will be the thing that makes MAGA change their mind and turn on Trump. Hopefully this will be the thing that makes voters go, hey, this Trump guy is not for us. And it never is. So if we're going to say, hey, all of these things, the unconstitutional acts, the corruption, the bribery, all of it's just part of it now, my suggestion is let's just find a better way to do it, right? Like, if we can just take corrupt bribes from the UAE, cool. But maybe we use it and use that corrupt money to fund healthcare. Just throwing it out there. Instead of Trump profiting $1 billion personally in his pocket, what if I was $1 billion to go to those people that are about to get kicked off their Obamacare subsidies, or to cover some of the people that are about to get kicked off Medicaid? At least then, like, average Americans are benefiting from the corruption, right? I think we could call it like Trump corruption is okay. And then that got me thinking, hey, what if we just start taking all of these terrible things Trump did and do them for something that benefits society? Not just like as a Democrat, but like for anyone. The next president, hopefully it's not a MAGA Republican. Hopefully it's a Democrat. Maybe it's a more moderate Republican. Those don't exist anymore. Never mind. But like, where's some good examples? Oh, Fox News. They're lying directly to voters, right? That's terrible. That's giving people false information and they're making decisions based on false information. It's literally making people angry and thinking that there are things that are happening that aren't. Trump has now started going after every media company, right? He just kicked Jimmy Kimmel off the air. So if a Democrat takes over, the Democrat can just do that. Take out Fox News, get rid of all of their commentators and analysts, and we'll do it under an executive order, just like Trump did. He set a record for like most executive orders because we don't care about small government anymore on the MAGA side, right? So the next president can come in and just get rid of Fox News, and we're going to call it the Donald Trump Fairness in Media Executive Order. Okay. I like that one. We're off to a good start. Birthright citizenship. So Trump came in and just had an executive order that said birthright citizenship doesn't exist. If you're born in America, you're no longer automatically an American citizen. Look, that's blatantly in the Constitution. I mean, that's like clear as day. But apparently, Trump can just like override the Constitution with an executive order. So next Democratic president also could do something like this. I think they could just say the Second Amendment no longer protects AR-15s or any type of gun that president so chooses. No problem. We will name it the Donald Trump Constitutional Interpretation Executive Order. Hey, here's one. Donald Trump has been withholding funds from colleges that he says are ideological, like they're biased against Republicans. Well, look, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Liberty College. Liberty University is literally created by, what was his name, Jerry Falwell. And they were like, hey, this is going to create ministers and pastors that benefit the Republican Party. Literally, it's like a branch of the Republican Party. There are other colleges like that, but that's the most main one, right? Perfect. Democratic president, you're going to withhold all funds from it. Any college out there that says anything that suggests any right-wing ideology, you're going to take their funds away, and you're going to call it the Donald Trump Ideological Bias Executive Order. Boom. Violating due process. So Donald Trump, I mean, under this administration, a million times we've seen different ways that they violated due process, especially when it comes to ICE, but there's been other ways. And what does he do? He just twists it and he says, well, that's so It's not about due process. That means you support criminals. So basically, he keeps getting around the Constitution by just better messaging. Well, one of the reasons that like government hasn't always been able to enforce environmental laws as strong as it wants is the environmental companies will sue and say, hey, you're violating our due process. Too bad. We're going to find a better way to message that. And the Democratic president is just going to violate the due process rights of those environmental companies. And we will call it the Donald Trump messaging beats Constitution executive order. Let's see. Buying stakes in companies. Trump took 10% of NVIDIA that we talked about earlier. There's another company, I think maybe they did, but it doesn't matter. That used to be a problem, and now Republicans and MAGA are all for the government owning portions of a company. So, Democratic president can take stakes in, I don't know, take stakes in a Fox News or a Wall Street Journal, have somebody on the board that vetoes a bunch of their stuff, or this could take stock in healthcare companies and make them reduce prices, or they could take ownership in solar companies and push solar everywhere. Okay. We will call that the Donald Trump Republicans Love Socialism executive order. Here's one I don't actually know that there's that big of a benefit, but I liked the way, right, that Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, went and groveled on his knees in front of Donald Trump and gave him a gold present. Right? It was just very manly of both of them. Right? Alpha male activity for sure. So I think any future president should require that of the biggest CEOs in America, and we will call that one the Donald Trump. I swear I'm not insecure executive order, partisanizing agencies. Like Trump has just said, we're gonna like it doesn't even matter anymore. I'll put the craziest motherfucker in charge of any agency. So we're not necessarily going to do crazy ones, but we're going to do ones that used to the Republicans would have said had been too extreme. But look, after you put RFK in charge of something, you can't say anything anymore. I think the next president could put AOC over DHS, let her decide what to do with ICE. We could put Elizabeth Warren on the SEC. Okay. And I don't know. We'll put Bernie Sanders in charge of something. Everybody will be okay with that one, right? And we will call that the Donald Trump. Anyone can run an agency executive order. Although I feel like I was accidentally like kind of disrespectful to my proposition leaders, but like I kind of told you guys earlier, made up analogies are not my strong suit. You get where I'm going with this one though. We're almost there. Here's a good one. So here in Indiana, Donald Trump wants us to redistrict our state to gerrymander even more towards the Republicans. Well, we don't have to do that, right? Our governor, Mike Braun, just basically said like, hey, we need to do this or we're not going to be able to get the funds we need for, infrastructure. Or it's going to be really hard to work with the Trump administration if we don't do what he wants. Cool. So the next Democratic president, you are going to go to all the Republican states and say, we're going to withhold all funding unless you redistrict for a map that benefits Democrats. I want to see 300 congressional seats for Democrats or no funds getting to any Republican anywhere. And we shall call that one the Donald Trump States' Rights Act. You know he's a big proponent of states' rights. We got two more. So one of them that Donald Trump actually did enact was an executive order called the Unleashing American Energy Act. He falsely declared a energy emergency, and he did it to benefit gas and oil. Next president, we're going to make this one easy. You're also going to declare an energy emergency and put the full force of the government towards moving us towards renewable energies, and you're just going to use the exact same name. The Donald Trump Unleashing American Energy Executive Order will become the Donald Trump Unleashing American Energy Executive Order. Last one. I don't actually know that this is an executive order. I just want the next Democratic president to be like Trump and just yell at people in the Oval Office. I want them to bring in Fox News' Brian Kilmeade and just repeatedly play the clip to him where he talks about killing the homeless and then just yell at him in front of the nation. I want the next president to bring in Jesse Waters from Fox News and put him right there and make him watch clips of himself dehumanizing Democrats and then play clips where Jesse Waters talks about Democrats dehumanizing people and yell at him for clearly being a hypocrite. I want the next president. I can't even decide. It's either going to be Ryan Johnson or it's going to be J.J. Abrams. and he's going to bring them both in, and he's going to fucking yell at them for Star Wars Episode 8 and 9, because the next trilogy had so much promise after Episode 7. I was psyched, and I can't decide where it went wrong. Was it in Episode 8, where you made Luke Skywalker possibly kill somebody for what they might do in the future when we didn't know if they're going to do it? Can we not just have one good guy left in the universe? Or is that the kind of reality and grittiness that we need from Star Wars? And really, the problem was J.J. Abrams in Episode 9, when he just tried to like push everything out and act like it didn't happen, and then he brought back the Emperor for no fucking reason. Like, guys, look, ever since 2016, shit has been rough for a lot of us. And when you took Star Wars and you fucked it up, that hurt. See, Marvel's totally screwed up all the Marvel movies, because what else? Corporate profits. They made too many things, start using heroes nobody cares about, won't be risky. Like, there are a bunch of reasons, right? But like, it didn't hold the same place in our heart. This is Star Wars. This is Star Wars. That meant something to me, man. That meant something to a lot of us. And J.J. Abrams, Ryan Johnson, you're going to sit in the Oval Office and the president's going to yell at you. He may not, or she may not even make up their mind as to which one of you screwed it up, because I'm still not decided. So figuratively, I can't even put the blame in the right place in my imagination. But the next president will. All right, a long exercise. I think you guys got the point. What Donald Trump is doing is making a mockery out of the presidency. He's using it to his personal benefit. And I don't think for a second he or any of these Republicans are thinking, well, what if a Democrat gets in and does this? And I gave some pretty ridiculous ideas in there, but honestly, some aren't that bad. If Donald Trump doesn't have to follow the Constitution, why does anybody else? If he can single-handedly push coal and oil, why can't the next president single-handedly push renewables? If this president can take the administrative state and destroy healthcare, why can't the next president just say, screw it, I'm going to fix healthcare? Oh, and here's a nice wraparound. Now you go and do something, and Supreme Court says, no, that's unconstitutional. Here's the problem. Supreme Court has ruled you can't do the nationwide injunctions anymore. You can't do that nationwide. So when undoubtedly the Fifth Circuit says, nope, you can't forgive student loan debt. You can't forgive healthcare debt. All right. While that injunction's in place, President, you're going to move the company that holds that debt to a state where it's not been put under an injunction, and you're just going to forgive it anyways. And by the time Supreme Court gets to it and says, no, you can't do that, too late, it's all gone. Donald Trump has looked at the presidency and said, none of this restrains me anymore, and only used it for the bad. My point, he is using the presidency to enrich himself, to the benefit of himself and his rich benefactors and no one else. The next president, you better take the same energy, the same laser focus, and the same just bull in a china shop action to help Americans make renewable energy more affordable and more accessible, make healthcare more affordable and more accessible. If there's something that's screwing up the supply chain, find a way to fix it. If there's something that's creating sky-high grocery prices, find a way to fix it. Quit saying we're a rule of laws or we're a country of laws and rules and I can only do this. There's nothing I could. Trump has taken that off the table. It's been amazing to see what they can get done for evil purposes. So you goddamn better well be using the same amount of energy and focus to make the American people's lives better. If Trump can drastically increase his wealth, ruin the healthcare system, basically just make us a joke, then the next president can take the office of the presidency and make all of our lives better. Thanks for tuning in to On Trial with Josh Lowry. See you guys next time.
On Trial with Josh Lowry.